Welcome to the Novel Podcast. Today I'm joined by Paul Blanchard. Paul's managing director of a company called Multimesh that make wire baskets and a company called Harpscreen. He's an outspoken advocate for manufacturing in the Northwest, and we're delighted Paul's joined us today to share his leadership journey and give us some words of wisdom and advice that he's learned over the last 20 years. Paul, welcome to the table.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
MD, Multimesh, Ops Director, Harpscreen.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to be.
Titles don't mean anything to me, but in the world you're in, you have to have a title sometimes to carry some gravitas for some of the meetings you're in. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the two businesses then.
So, first of all, Multimesh UK is a bespoke manufacturer, predominantly of stainless steel, wire-based products, manufacturing products for people like the NHS, decontamination baskets. So they are things such as if you have an operation and they use the scalpel after the operation, they'll need to be decontaminated. We manufacture the baskets that those items go into before they go into, in essence, a big dishwasher that cleanses them. And then we make things like car grills for McLaren, Porsche, and KFC. So when you're having your KFC chicken, all the chicken that's being cooked, those baskets and those racks that it's stored on are manufactured at our factory in St Helens for the whole of the UK.
So infection control in theatres and
Yes.
also
The
Kentucky
exact
Fried
opposite.
Chicken. Yeah.
Correct. Whereas then Harpscreen is absolutely number one in its market in the UK. We've taken away all of the competition over the last 20 plus years. And that is a very, very specific woven wire mesh, whereas Multimesh, it's welded, made in a high tensile steel, which has some level of abrasive resistance over mild steel. And in essence, they are big sieves that go into what are called screening and crushing machines. The best way to describe it is if you've ever seen Gold Rush on the television, we make the parts that go inside those machines. If not, they are literally, they blast the rock, they crush the rock, and they grade the rock. So when you're buying your sand, cement, decorative rock from B&Q, that specific 20 millimetre aggregate is probably 99% chance it's passed over one of our sieves, and that business just keeps growing.
So your export success story as well as home
Yes,
market?
correct, yeah. Yeah, we've grown. We have some international markets. It's difficult with the transportation. But in Europe, we entered Europe in 2018 from a standstill, with zero sales, and we now...
So the worst, 2018, the worst possible
correct,
time.
Yeah, but like a challenge. We did just over $1 million last year.
Wow.
Just from sales, all from the Haydock factory. Despite Brexit, despite the French bringing in new VAT rules for export, despite Dover, despite all the ports and the carriages, because we carry so much stock and our manufacturing time is one day, we can destroy the European market. So even though there is less expensive competition in the European market, our speed of delivery and our quality means lots of customers, once they come to us, they just come back because it's easy. Yeah, it's a good success.
What motivated you to try and get into the European market, post Brexit?
I was told I couldn't. Very simple as that.
So you're another contrary MD.
Correct, yeah. Correct. I just believe that what we built and what we had with Harpscreen, both here and we have a factory in Northern Ireland, nobody else has anything like it in that industry. And the model worked here, it works in Northern Ireland, why would it not work in Europe? And the biggest sort of lesson I learned, which it sounds ridiculous, but it's being over there, just literally meeting people. And it's a PR exercise. They don't buy because I'm there, but if I go over and we're having a coffee and sharing, that relationship's there, we're still fresh in their minds, we get the business from them.
So people buy from people still?
It's not changed. It's not changed. We had a business in Dubai 12, 13 years ago, and that was a complete massive learning curve for myself. The hypocrisy of the Emirates was a massive shock, but also the way business was done over there, it was very much the old-fashioned brown envelope, if you like, is still a massive... This was back then, but we had a factory that could produce the same products that we produce here. We'd see very little business, despite the gentleman running it being technically an outstanding person in that world. As soon as I arrived, we'd go and visit all of the big customers, the big quarries, lots of handshakes, lots of chats, and all the orders would arrive because they were then shaking hands with somebody British. Therefore, it was now a British company. And that was a huge learning curve.
So the British brand, the British
it was
manufacturing
huge.
still
Carried
held,
so much weight. So
held
much weight. Yeah.
And do you find that with the Europeans as well? Is the brand made in Britain?
I don't think so much with the Europeans. It was almost with Brexit, it went against us. So we used to have the British flag. the Union Jack
Yeah.
on a lot of our branding. And when Brexit happened, it was a thing we said, you know what, take that away. And the European EU logo, we took that away as well. There was a lot of animosity for about 18 months because they were frustrated that we were leaving what they seemed to be the EU because it worked for them as a business, and they were buying from us and didn't want that pain of the import and export and everything else. And we just found it didn't really count for anything at all. It was a negative.
That's the side, the story you don't sort of hear is upsetting your customers and the animosity that
politically
someone else has generated against.
I think for the best part of those 18 months, every conversation with our European customer was political. They wanted to know what was going on in Britain. Why had we voted no? And I could never tell them. And I don't talk politically anyway. It never ends well, no matter which side of the fence you're on. But that was a real sort of, like, for 18 months, it was just constantly trudging against that political question of why have you done this? It was like, we haven't done this. It's happened. Let's make the most of it.
And how did you kind of recover from that? Is it just you?
Is
it a local team? Right. Okay. So all the chaos, we'll sort that out as business as usual.
That's what we did for about 14 months. We absorbed the delivery cost and took that pain away. And we had to learn massively with the DDP, delivered duty paid system, into Europe, and overcoming wagons being stopped at the port by the French customs for no reason. Different customs houses in Europe having different rules and regulations. It was just, you think you'd understood it, and then a week later, 4 consignments would be stopped. Important for the customer, and you couldn't understand why it had been stopped. And a lot of the time you felt it was a political decision.
Right.
It was cause disruption to the British economy. We might then have them back at the table to try and undo Brexit, so to speak. That's what it felt like the undercurrent was a lot of the time.
Is it just kind of as you enter the free trade zone, but once you're in, in?
It's fine.
So your solution to that was kind of local distribution? What was the...
No, DDP with a partner here in the UK, who their business was all European freight, and they spent a huge amount of money with Deloitte & Touche coming up with this delivered duty paid system, which processed the actual export. And the irony and the loophole that existed was, I think, Article 48, I think it was called. So in essence, on paper, you created a fake version of the British company in Europe.
Right.
So the export would happen from here to that company, and then that company, because it was based in Europe, would then ship in Europe free of charge.
Right, so you got like a daughter company.
Yeah, and there was no accountancy to it, and it was just, it was a real crazy workaround, but it worked, and it was completely legal, which was the main thing.
Interesting. And for you, kind of running multiple businesses, you're kind of entrepreneurial.
Yes.
It's not just core businesses. What's your average day start like?
About 7 o'clock in the morning, post an attempt at going to the gym. I'll check emails, check my diary. I'll then start responding to emails. I'll then probably annoy my wife for a bit, talking work, because she works with me.
Okay.
And she'll be like, I don't start work till 8 o'clock, so can we just not have this
Give me
conversation?
problems after 8 o'clock, after having my coffee.
And then I'll head to whichever factory. I try to have a pattern, because there's 2 factories, one in Haydock, one in St. Helens, and the one in St. Helens has 2 businesses in it. The one in Haydock has 1 located there, but does manufacture products for another one in Wolverhampton. And I'll try to keep a reasonably set routine each week. So it might be a specific day is always at that factory, because there's production meetings and things like that. And also the team need to know I'm going to be there on that day. So if there's any problems, they'll know, well, it can wait until tomorrow or whenever it might be. Get to the factory for sort of 7:45, 8 a.m. and then straight into emails, problems, updates on production, invoices, signing off purchase orders. And
debtors.
We do run a very tight ship, and I have to give credit to the team and the accounts team at that. They're very well drilled, and we're quite fortunate in that, because we are number one in most of the markets we're in. We can be quite rigid with our customers, both new and old.
That's an achievement in itself, to have the relationships, but also to kind of set the discipline with customers.
Correct. And it's very easy to be caught by bad debt. This country, I'm not sure about other countries, but the ability to fold a company and rise a new one the next day in this country is just, it's nothing short of criminal. So you have to be really, really tight. And people can look like a really, really strong company and then literally disappear.
Is that sort of by virtue of the supply chains you're in or the industries you're in as well, is they are fairly kind of reliable and stable?
Yeah, I mean, the likes of the NHS, obviously, people like McLaren, good blue chip brands and strong businesses, you're not going to have any problems with that. But there's other companies who grow exponentially and they want you to support them. And the argument I always pass on to my team is, we're not their bank. We're not here to cash flow their business. We've got a business ourselves. We have to cash flow. But especially construction, or as I say, businesses who've grown quite quickly, quite rapidly, they almost think it's a God-given right to be given additional credit because they're doing really well.
And we're taking you along for the ride.
Correct.
And it'll be jammed tomorrow, and just bear with us.
We've had it in the last 2 weeks. We're a very, very big company in the UK. Two elements of the business: one UK limited company, and then a larger company that's a global company with a UK office. They ran up a huge amount of orders with us, and we allowed the credit to go to quite a substantial amount. And then the company ceased trading. They sent everybody home. We got word of that through we have our own drivers who drive the wagons, and they constantly visit sites, and they'd phoned us and said, there's something not right here. There's the people I normally see aren't here. Few phone calls. We got lucky that the major national company still has to deal with us because of the specific mesh we can manufacture for them. So they've come back and said, right, we'll pay that debt so we can keep trading with you. But otherwise, we were going to be exposed.
That's a lesson a lot of businesses starting out don't kind of learn until it's a painful experience.
But chasing turnover is a criminal thing that a lot of new businesses do, even large businesses do. But also being strong enough to know, well, actually, I'm not going to take that. And a lot of the time I say to the sales team, look, negotiate. Ask them for 30, 40, 50% up front, and then we'll take a risk. Because at that point, your costs are nearly covered or should be covered. So you can take that risk. And the customer understands that then.
Fantastic. The kind of way you set your operations up then, have you got one team that runs between sites, or is each business a distinct kind of management team, ops team you've built within each business?
Totally vertical businesses in terms of their own sales team, their own factory managers, but we have a shared accounts and admin function, which is based in the Haydock site. So there's 3 ladies there that they do all of the accounts, all of the debt chasing, all of the invoice processing, all of the new account setup for all 4 companies. And it works, and they do all the salaries as well.
Was that your first structure, or was that something you've evolved over time?
It's evolved, really, because we started with one business, and then as we've acquired the businesses to keep the overheads down, we just put more pressure on that team.
So it was growth through acquisition. It wasn't spin out companies, sister companies. It was, okay, there's somebody we can turn around.
So the 4 companies that I look after are all related to Harpscreen and the Harpscreen industry, despite multi-mesh and screen systems who hadn't mentioned. When you look at them on the websites and the products, you couldn't understand how they're linked. So the link is Harpscreen's main competitor when they came to the UK was a company called Potter and Saw, based in Banbury, who would have been probably a 150-year-old wire weaving manufacturer at that point, and very, very well known in the UK. And their business model was take the orders, and then when they got enough of a specific type of mesh, they would then weave that whole run of mesh. So you could be waiting 4 to 6 weeks. Our model was, well, let's make the mesh as an oversized piece of mesh panel that will fit many, many different applications.
So you're weaving sheets of how big?
So when 3.5 by 1.6 meters wide.
And they go on stock until they cut in and form
it. And the customer will phone and say, I've got this type of machine. Can I have a 50mm opening or aperture? Yeah, absolutely. We'll take that off the shelf, cut it and hook it to that size. And the customer can have it within 2 to 3 days. So that completely destroyed their market, but they didn't react. They just kept doing what they were doing. Eventually, they put the business up for sale because the family lost interest. We got asked to purchase it. We declined a number of times. A competitor of ours in Northern Ireland who had seen what we were doing with our English company bought the business, and that business also included Multimesh in St. Helens, which was a backstory to how they got that a long time previously. They came into the market, were annoying for a couple of 3 years, didn't succeed, and then didn't pay their dues to the previous ownership. So there was a huge court case. Court case was it's all well documented, and they lost the business through administration because they couldn't pay the debt. We then bought the Potter and Saw factory with them because we wanted the equipment to help us grow Harpscreen. The administrator said, absolutely, you can have that, but you must take the multi-mesh business with all the staff and Tupi. And I was sat in the boardroom in Banbury and went, yeah, I'll do that. And so we took it over. And it was really massively underinvested in. 51 staff, I think there was the day we took it over. And from that staff, that was in 2012, there's 2 original members of staff left in that team. So that's a huge transition in terms of experience, product lines, efficiencies, investment. But we've completely turned it around, doubled its turnover, made it steady, got solid profits, and it's a really good brand.
How did you get to the point where you had a team that you could mobilise to do that? Was it you personally kind of in there? Was it a gang of you that
No, what I rely heavily on, there's a core of about 5 or 6 of us that know how I work, I know how they work, and I know, right, okay, let's parachute you into here. So when we had the factory in Dubai, there was 2 or 3 of them that I'd take with me to set it up. We had one in Malaysia, it was the same thing then, and this business was exactly the same. And we did a lot of work with, I've forgotten the guy's name now, to do with the development of the manufacturing at Multimesh, because it was far more complex in terms of the number of touch time moments because of the processes compared to Harpscreen. And that was something I wasn't really understanding of or really knew how to get my head around. How do we improve this efficiency? So we did quite a big project, and that helped us move all of the manufacturing processes around the factory to reduce the touch time, to reduce the movements. That was the main thing.
Say lean approach, or
it was a lean with Sigma 6 and some Kanban stuff, and centre in Coventry.
MTC, Mark Sotheby.
Yeah, and
just jump in with
Richard Wild-Jones. So he was the consultant he sent in, and we locked horns. We banged heads because Richard Wild-Jones was of the opinion we were a production line, but it was really good for us. And eventually he had a massive impact on how we changed that business to make it far more efficient.
That's really interesting you say you locked horns, because that's so often a sign. It's something in manufacturing is you go in and to be told you're wrong in the first instance, but to be mature enough to kind of have that backwards and forwards, and for you as a business go, actually, I see where you're coming from now.
And I think the thing, you bring them in because they know they should know more. And don't get me wrong, some consultants I've asked them to leave the building because they don't. And they don't listen. That's a big thing. They come in with a preconceived idea. This is what I'm going to do. And they don't learn the business.
This is what I do. This is the menu. And
correct. Yeah. This is my flow chart, and that's what we're going to do. And you're like, but that doesn't work in this environment. And here's the reasons why. And with Richard, it was similar. But eventually he understood that, okay, right, we're going to have to compartmentalise that. We'll do that. But he had a big impact on how we changed that business. And I still speak to Mark now, and we do work with them. It's really good. It's just a fresh pair of eyes. A lot of the time.
So instance aware manufacturing technology centre, the catapults are actually working for regional businesses.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Superb. So you're a lad from Kirby?
I am, originally.
How's a lad from Kirby go to running a group of multi-million turnover manufacturing businesses? How'd you get into manufacturing?
So my background was I had a child very young when I was 18. So that scuppered the university plans that my mum had for me. But all it did was create a drive that I now recognise that I already had, but it sort of trebled it to prove that I didn't need to go to university to be successful. So I sort of worked in a supermarket, finished my A-levels, brought up my daughter, went to work for Customs and Excise as a VAT inspector, progressed quite quickly through their sort of...
So you did kind of bookkeeping and technical...
No, this was VAT, so large companies paying VAT. So across the UK, keeping control of them, dealing with their late payments, dabbled with the FAST team, which is the inspection teams and things like that.
Is this down at the docks, is it?
This was at Queen's Dock, which is now an apartment block. And it was great. It was brilliant, but it was like being in school. It was all fully subsidised. It was all flexi time. So after a while, I was bored. I was like, and I got to the level I could get to before you had to wait for somebody to die or retire to get your next level of promotion. So I quit on a whim.
How many years are you there, sorry?
I was there 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And I just got bored. I thought, well, this isn't for me. Left. The first job I got was actually an external VAT inspector. So gamekeeper then became poacher. And
so you're working for the businesses when they're interacting with HMRC?
Correct, yeah. So the task then was to fight HMRC and say, that's not right, we want to pay this or pay this. Mainly universities and things like that to claim zero rated VAT on elements of their buildings. And again, after 4 weeks, I thought, this isn't for me. It's not going to challenge me enough. Left there, and then ended up randomly in an interview at an IT business in Kirby. And the guy who owned it, I met him, and I'll never forget, he came into the interview with a bright yellow folder, which was the company branding and a packet of beef Monster Munch. And I just thought, I want to work with this guy. He was from Care, and we just got on really well.
Cup of tea and Monster Munch.
It was bizarre, I thought anyway, but I just got on with him really well. And then I joined that business, I think it was turning over maybe 250,000, 300k. And we had some really good software products focused on domiciliary care industry, all to do with the time and attendance type stuff and scheduling and rostering and what would be Microsoft CRM now. We had a very good CRM system, and we just grew it. It was great. It was a real sort of like all hands on deck. We built servers, we built computers, and I just travelled the country selling for them. I joined to be in the office, and within a couple of days, the sales guy quit, and I went, I can sell this.
So where'd that sales kind of drive? You had no formal sales training.
No, I just believed in it. So I never felt I was selling. I was going out and giving people solutions to problems, and I'd go out and see all these like big organisations, a lot of them charities, who were delivering care in the community, who were being absolutely ripped off by massive national companies charging them clean fortunes for software, computers, servers that didn't deliver what they needed, and weren't listening to. And we were sort of, because we were young, we'd say, right, what do you want it to do? Okay, well, we've got the developers, we'll code that for you and make it do it. And don't be wrong, it was chaos. You know, it was the proverbial swan. On the top, we looked really good. Underneath, we were all running around, but we grew it, and it was great. And then I ended up buying the business with the MD at the time and another guy. Borrowed more money than I've ever borrowed in my life.
So management buyout.
Yeah. And then we grew that, and the two other guys were a lot older than me, and I just felt I was doing all the heavy lifting. So I decided, right, I'm out. But Harpscreen was one of the customers I brought on board. So the owner, Kevin McCabe, I used to meet him when he was travelling over as Harpscreen was starting. And I'd normally meet him late in the afternoon, evening, because that's when he had time, because he was trying to grow the business off. Or he'd say, come and meet me at the hotel he was staying in. And I was just always enjoyed chatting to him, and his IT, got him some grants, etc., etc. Sold the IT company, ended up working for Marks and Spencer's in London as an IT consultant. Bored again, because
you're in a suit, you're in London.
Yeah, it just wasn't active enough. And he said, do you fancy coming and running Harpscreen? I'm not really enjoying commuting over from Northern Ireland every other week. So I said, yeah, okay, let's give it a go. And that was 2007. 20 years, about 19 years this September, yeah.
I mean, that's fascinating to go from a lad looking for a job to sales director, growing the business, and then the buyout. So in the nice possible way, where do you get the bottle to borrow the money to buy out a business that young?
The irony about borrowing that money was I was close to buying a house, and the house I think was say £35,000, and I was terrified of the mortgage, but the MBO was 500k, and I signed for that, no problem at all. It was crazy, and I still to this day couldn't tell you. I think it was belief. I believed in the IT company because I'd built it to where it was with the team, so I believed we could push it on further.
So your house is your family. It's a risk. It's an obligation. It's a liability. Whereas the business is, if you know you can make sales,
correct.
Then
I knew that
you feel more in control of the loan.
And the businesses after that point, every business is the same. You either make something or you deliver something, or it's both. What that is different in every business, but everything else internally is the same. You buy things, you make things, you sell things. You worry about cash flow. You need the staff. You need to recruit. You need to train. It doesn't matter what business it is. To me, everything is exactly the same. So the IT business, Harpscreen, multi-mesh, screen systems, Brimon, they're all identical.
So you made the move into kind of Harpscreen about the time of global financial crisis?
Yeah, 2007.
So again, another kind of worst time to make a change or make a move.
Yeah.
Did that affect you as you got into Harpscreen?
It was probably because we were brand new, like we was only 18 months old, it didn't really impact. And because we were so new, we were able to take business because we were different in what we were doing. So we didn't have a sales figure of say 4 million and all of a sudden we dropped to 2. We would start from nothing. So when I joined, I think the turnover was about 1.3, 1.4. So we were still growing. So it was steady growth. And then about 8 years ago, we really sort of just said, right, let's push on now. We built a mezzanine floor in Harpscreen with some funding from the NWDA replacement, whatever that was called, when the coalition came in. And that sort of really came into effect. We had more machines, so we trebled our capacity of looms in Harpscreen. And that just enabled us to make more products faster, quicker, and push the stuff out the door a lot better.
So multi-mesh is very much kind of on the tools. It's labour intensive with the welds, so. And then Harpscreen is machine tools and
not to do them a disservice, but there's a lot less fail points in Harpscreen. We weave it on the machine, so as long as you crimp the wire correct and put it into the loom correctly, as if you're weaving a cotton jumper, it's the same process. Once that's threaded up and running, you can just literally switch off. And I do say to the guys, you must have to go to some happy places to stand there all day and do what you do. But they're well looked after. We try to make sure that their salaries and wages are way above minimum wage, because recruiting staff is really difficult.
This is something you've talked about before, is there's the difficulty of finding good people and young people in particular, getting young people to manufacturing. I remember calling you, doing a project, talking about innovation, and you said to me, I don't care about innovation, I just want a bloody night bus.
Yeah.
Because you were looking to put an extra shift on, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Is that improving? How do you...
No, it's... I mean, for me, which I've said for long, it's a social problem, massively, especially in the areas we're in, Haydock and St Helens, which is all I can speak about. So multi-mesh is right on the boundary of St Helens, heading towards the M62. There's no public transport at all, not even a round-robin bus service. And we've lobbied the chamber before they disappeared. We've spoke to the council. Everybody says, yeah, we'll look at it. And it's not. So we provided bikes to staff in the past. And you know, a lot of our staff do commute by car. They have a vehicle, and we try to recruit within 2 to 3 miles. We find once you go above that, it's difficult then to keep the staff, unless they're paying, you know, you're paying a really, really good salary, which some of the welder fabricators we can justify that, but it's difficult. Haydock is the same. There is a bus, but it's only a specific time. It does the sort of 2 loops and then it's finished for the day, and vice versa. So a lot of our staff cycle in or they car share, but that's a big problem when you're trying to recruit.
And somebody said to me, you were helping people out with car payments because you had people who were earning a wage for the first time in life, and they were getting sold massive PCPs, and you're like, no, you don't need a new car, you just need something to get you to work, and I'll help you out. I'll
help any of them, you know, any of the team that are around me. You know, I've bought cars for people myself personally. That's not I like cars. I see it, I buy it, I'm like, right, look, you can have that, pay me back.
What you need is a Mark III Fiesta with the 1.2. Yeah.
So, you know, so much a month. And because if they're good people, I want them to be successful. I want them to stay with us. So that to me is an investment in that member of staff. We've helped them with PCP payments, helping them understand that and explain them what that means, because it's not taught in school.
The financial literacy and
the interest
household
rates.
budget. And...
You've got the huge, you know, reclaim going on at the moment in the country with the mis-selling of finance, because people haven't been educated about that, and the system doesn't want them educated. But those people who are on a budget, if their interest rate was more normal, they'd probably be able to afford that car with a lot less headache.
And it means you get people in work on time.
Correct.
It means if people got to take the kids to school or get mum to an appointment or something.
So many times we've had people not turn up for work because they have no money.
That's great. I mean, this Britain, we are, what, 4th, 5th richest country in the world.
Right, just come in, we'll get you some fuel, or, you know, get a taxi in or whatever. And, you know...
That must be tough if somebody who can't get... And how do they tell you that? I'm really sorry, I wanted...
That's the other side, is they'll tell a lie.
Right.
You know, I'm sick or something's happened, or they just won't turn up.
Rather than say, I couldn't afford bus fare or I couldn't afford fuel car.
We tried a scheme at the council a few years ago with youths who were in the YMCA. So they were in this sort of vicious loop of couldn't get a property of their own because they didn't have a job, couldn't get a job because they didn't have an address, etc., etc. So the council were trying to create this scheme where they would fund them, and the chamber involved. And I think we took 3 or 4 of them in. And one of them, after about a week, just didn't turn up. And what had happened was, because we'd paid him a wage, the housing system had then said, well, your housing benefit stops now. But he still had rent to pay. So all of a sudden, all his bills were due. He had 1 week's wages, but he was being asked for 3, 4, 5 weeks worth of council tax payments, rent, and he just stopped. He said, no point working. Gave up straight away.
That's dysfunction.
Yeah, it is. And there was no support to help them bridge that sort of 2-3 month period it's going to take to get used to budgeting, having the money coming in, all of those things.
But that's a throttle on your business.
Yeah,
that's not being able to recruit and having people in that circumstance. And it's not just you.
It's frustrating. You know, we recruit now. Everybody goes through an agency for 12 weeks. And that's just, we've done that for probably 10 years nearly now.
But that's an overhead to you guys, I guess.
Correct, yeah.
It's risk, it's insurance.
Correct, yeah. Because we get to see what they're like. We get to see if they like working for us. Can they be punctual? Can they be on time? Can they commute in? Things like that. You know, people saying, we'll come to work on an e-scooter. And you're saying, that's not going to work long term. I'll tell you that now. And they try it. And a mountain bike, great, until the weather's really bad. So, you know, it's really, really difficult. And then mobile phones just drive me insane.
On the shop floor.
Yeah, it's just and I totally get it because we're all guilty of it. But the amount of people we've recruited who cannot survive the day, I'm talking 1 hour without the phone, and we've disciplined and lost many staff because they cannot do that simple task of putting the phone in the locker until break time.
So we talk a lot about kind of phones' effects on kids and young people and the dopamine hit, but that's you never hear about that dimension. Is actually it's taking people out of their paid employment.
You've got to remember, we're working with machinery that will injure you. That will injure you if you're not paying attention. So even without the distraction of a phone, and it could be a Facebook post that's annoyed you, or a friend messaging you, or some sort of family drama or whatever it might be, if that's on your mind, you're distracted. It's difficult enough staying concentrated without that sort of distraction. And these people are operating machines that, one false move, it will injure your finger, your hands, or something like that. So we're very, very strict with the mobile phones.
Multi-mesh kind of Harpscreen today, headcount is about what?
Across the two, it's close to 80.
That's a lot of people to manage. Yeah. That's and the growth for you guys, is that coming from the people or is that coming from productivity? Is that
productivity.
Right, so that's your big push
Correct.
At the moment.
Yeah, is productivity, efficiency. What can we outsource? What machinery can we bring in? So we bought a new CNC router machine last year. That was about 150k investment, which we got some help from the VEC with the grants that were around at the time. And that's made a huge difference in terms of Multi-Mesh's ability to manufacture the jigs that make the mesh. So that has helped us go from maybe the average jig manufacturing time was 3 days to now half a day. So that's had a huge impact on that labour content element of those particular contracts. There's other parts we say, right, can we outsource that to somebody else in terms of only small parts that we can make internally, but it frees up labour to do more skilled work internally to help us turn more product out the door.
And is that appealing? Is that helping you bring more people in? If younger people in particular is kind of more modern tools or kind of more automated processes? It's not.
Honestly, it's I used to have a benchmark years ago. 1 in 5 people would be excellent. 2 would be okay. 1 we'd tolerate, and 1 would be shocking for the business. I'd say now it's probably 1 in 20 to 25. That's how bad the ratio is now when we recruit. And we know quite quickly, in terms of their ability to turn up. Because it's a factory, so the Multi-Mesh factory starts at 7:30, the Harpscreen factory 8 a.m. And they work till 4:30 at Multi-Mesh and 5:30 at Harpscreen. They finish at 1:15 on a Friday, Multi-Mesh finish at 3:15. So they're not bad hours, but if you're not used to being up,
they're intense as well.
6, and it's hard work, especially Harpscreen. That is, it's hard graft because it's really heavy products at times. But yeah, we really struggle to recruit now.
Would you go to 2 shift pattern if you could?
If we could, if we had the staff, definitely, and we've spoken about it in the past. Multi-Mesh is more; it's a longer germination period to make somebody of value to us in the business as a whole. There's certain tasks that we know within 2 or 3 weeks we can leave that person to do that job for probably the next number of years if we wish. But we use it as like a creche in terms of those tasks. Train them in that. If they work in that and they can survive in that, then we'll teach them the more skilled jobs, which allows them to earn more money and they become more valuable to themselves and the business. But that's really difficult at the moment to find that tranche of people who want to do that.
Once you get them off the agency model and they're on payroll, retention is pretty good.
It's really good.
Yeah, so
it is really good. Yeah, the only time we lose people is either they find a job with a better salary, they relocate, and we wish everybody the best. And we have a lot of boomerang staff, I call them, who do go and try other worlds for more money, and they all come back. Which I always find is a nice compliment to us that
your culture
we're actually a good place to work for.
Yeah. People, grass is always green on the other side. Naturally, money's great, but conditions are rubbish. And
we try to treat everybody as an adult, and I always say to them, look, that's your job. That's what I expect. That's what we'll pay you. Just do it. Anything you need, ask us. Anything we can improve, tell us, and we'll look at it. But if you're not doing what we ask, then there's going to be problems, and we're going to have to sit down and disciplinaries, and we don't like disciplinaries. It's not enjoyable for anybody.
Yeah, no one does unless they're a complete sociopath.
But we've had to do it in the past.
And for your kind of the management team, leadership team, kind of the ops management side, is that something you grow in? Is where's the next generation of people coming up through from there?
We're all looking for retirement, that group, because we've got a sort of a void at the moment in the age range. So all of my team are 50 plus, there or thereabouts, the core team. The next sort of age range after that is maybe 25 to 35. And there's
a big step up.
There's nobody in there who I would say we could make the investment in to upskill them to become factory managers, office managers, even salespeople. I try to see if we can take somebody from the shop floor and turn them into an inbound technical salesperson. It's really just not there at the moment.
That must be quite scary then, because that's your future value as well as for the country, as well as
for
the community.
Owner.
It's as the owner, where's
it's it points towards there won't be much manufacturing left in the UK, because it can't just be us that are in that world and struggling. And obviously automation and robotics are great, but we've looked at, especially at multi-mesh, a lot of the stuff that we've looked at, the robots and the automation can't deal with the human input, because we do a lot of what's called linishing to get a soft finish, and the robots can't control that because they can't feel the contact between the machine. And because we use perforated steel, wire and mesh, the things like ceramic beads that do sort of softening that you can use for certain, they can't deal with that, because the tolerance of mesh versus a wire rod is completely different. So if you put it in the tub that does the ceramic beads, the mesh will fall apart before the wire rod does. So it all has to be hand finished still.
In another world, that's a nice business to be in if you're beyond automation, if you're proper skilled labour.
I think at some point 3D printing will take over. Once they can master the way to make it efficiently, cost effective to 3D print a basket in stainless steel or another alloy, then you won't need.
For your regulated industries, for filtration or for the medical stuff, that's the failure points.
Yeah, huge.
And additive manufacturing.
And those take the NHS, they've all gone down the road over the last 10, 15 years of outsourcing from India, Pakistan for these baskets. KFC have done the same, and it's price driven, and the quality the feedback doesn't get to the people who are buying until it's too late, because they just put the product in the bin and buy another one and another one. It's only when somebody's analysing the cost and saying, why have you bought so many of those baskets, the quality isn't there. So that is, the onshoring has come a lot around in the last 6 to 8 years, but it's still something we're up against a lot of the time. Oh, we've got this price, and I'm like, go and buy it.
And it'll fall apart.
We have a structure. If somebody quotes out a lesser price that we know cannot be manufactured in the UK at that price, because everybody in the UK has a manufacturing cost. We all know
set price of labour, set price of overheads, over energy.
Steel is the same price almost globally. Go and buy it. And a lot of the time they still buy from us.
Energy costs and obviously cost of steel the last couple of years as well, in the last 6 months in particular.
Steel has been pretty constant in terms of the last 5 or 6 years, other than the COVID impact.
Yeah.
It's sort of, if you look at the average price, it's pretty steady. It's had a lot of peaks and troughs in that time, but the price has been pretty steady and average. However, the last 3 months, especially the last month, it has become absolutely crazy. And people are talking about the Iran-USA conflict, which is having a huge impact. But there's something called CBAM that's coming in Europe, which is the carbon, I forget the full definition of that acronym. But in essence, the UK's quota for steel that can come in without a tariff is just being halved as of tomorrow, I think it is. So that's all your hot rolled coil, galvanised sheath, things like that everybody uses for construction and fabrication. That quota that can come in tariff-free is more or less down 50%. So that's the main driver for the steel cost at the moment, going through the roof.
We've got the most expensive energy costs in the developed world. We've now got some of the most expensive steel imports and struggling labour pool. Yeah.
And Tata Steel seem to be the only ones benefiting from it, unfortunately. You go figure that out.
But we're at a time, you need manufacturing. You're seeing, that the offshoring thing and the globalisation thing's fraying. You for your security, you've got to be able to make stuff.
We haven't got a government who've sort of embraced manufacturing, I don't think, since the World War. If you look at the performance, it's just been, which I understand back in the day, right? Chase service industries, chase the bank and chase the financial, which I totally understand in the 80s and 90s, but manufacturing got forgotten about. And it's almost like now it's too late. It's not going to happen anyway. AI is going to take over robotics or automation, or we're buying it from China. Don't worry about it. It'll take care of itself, and then eventually there'll be nothing left of it. As opposed to Britain can manufacture. To me, if you look at manufacturing, F1 is the epitome of British manufacturing. it's no coincidence that they all end up with a team based in Britain if they want to be successful in that world, and they still attract the best engineers. It still brings in some of the best mechanics, not necessarily British, but globally, and they all come to Britain to be part of that world. Now, you look at the aerospace, we've got similar things in that world. Rolls-Royce with the engines, the Trent, whatever it's called now, this huge big engine that they built for that ability to be a world-class manufacturer still exists in this country. But for me, the pride that the country had in being a great manufacturer has almost disappeared, almost maybe become a bit ashamed of being a manufacturer. I'm not sure. The government should work hard, for me anyway, to say, right, let's get pride back into manufacturing.
Does the advanced manufacturing label kind of offend you? Because there's been an obsession with advanced manufacturing. My boss always says there is no such thing as advanced manufacturing. It's all manufacturing. You need every single step. You need it now to do stuff.
Is it 4.0 still?
Yeah,
the standard, right? Well, at best we're at 1.5, and I would argue that most manufacturers in Britain are even at the top of the level are probably at 3, because it's so difficult to get there. And the ideology of it and the theory of it's great. Then you've got, well, hold on, what's the capital investment in that? What's the people investment in order to achieve that? And in the meantime, you go, right, I've just got to get back to the day job because we need to make money. So it never really gets there. And a lot of SMEs struggle to even look outside their window at what's going on around them. They're so entrenched in building the business and growing the business. I think Surface Finishing have just gone into administration. I don't know if you know them.
Yeah.
In Knowsley, I think it's yesterday or Friday, the carbon ceramic disc manufacturer, they've gone, and that's
a big blow.
They're one of 2, I think, manufacturers of those carbon ceramic brakes in the world, I believe, and they've just folded. And I'm sure they had like £13 million of assistance from the LCRC recently to try and keep going. So that if they can't survive, what chance have they got? And they're making a really good niche product that so many
premium
brands,
products, complicated products.
I think they lost the contract for General Motors for whatever reason. I don't know. But yeah, it's that should have been something that we were fully behind in saying, right, let's push that on. That's the future for
someone kind of is a local lad, someone who's a sales guy as well as a turnaround. How do you do it at scale? How do you get the country to get back into manufacturing? Which bits need to be replumbed?
You need scale.
So 30-year challenge. We're going to build small modular reactors, or we're going to build nuclear fusion reactors, and it's got to be UK contracts.
Jaguar Land Rover, we're going to make sure they onshore all of the parts. The medical industry, people like that, you say, right, okay, well, if you're going to come here, what are you bringing? Because full automation is great, but if you're making tablets and medication, there's not a lot of employees needed in that world. You get behind the SMEs and say, right, what's the niche products that you're making? And this constant promise of, we're going to make sure the supply chain's local, actually deliver on it. Because every industry says, we're going to look at the local supply chain. And they do look at it, and then they go wherever the price is best, be it construction, be it automotive. They go where the money's the money savings are to be had. And you need a Prime Minister who's saying, we will back British manufacturing across the country. We'll get people to work in that world. We'll encourage them to go to work in that world, and we'll make stuff because you can sell it.
Is that part of the problem? Is kids don't think about manufacturing as career? I mean, everyone wants to be a footballer or an influencer, or in digital.
I wouldn't know now what children who are sort of 13 to 18 see as a career. When I grew up, it was police officer, fire officer, electrician, joiner, that sort of world. University for some of us, and see what that brought. Teachers, all what I would deem traditional career paths. I'm not really sure that exists nowadays. I don't even know if it's mentioned to the people in that age bracket. I wouldn't know.
David Miller from Heath and Partners has got a really good one where he says during school holidays he wants to bring them in for work experience. People say, what, the kids? And he says, no, the teachers. You need to get the teachers in to show them that what goes on inside a factory, because there's that perception that manufacturing's dirty and complicated, and that's where you go if you fail your exams. And he's like, actually, this is some of the highest paying jobs in some parts of manufacturing in the economy.
The modern apprenticeships, where up to the age of 25 at the likes of Rolls-Royce and BAE, I thought was a really, really good thing. And then the sort of promotion behind it disappeared. And I'm not really sure that enough people were aware, because to me that was a great way into a fantastic career that would look after you for the rest of your life. but I just didn't ever see the promotional side of it in schools, in careers officers, in anything, or in areas of sort of low unemployment or high unemployment, low employment.
It's a regulatory environment for you guys as well.
Health and safety is constant, and we do our absolute best. But you're an SME. There's only there's only so many things you can do before the regulations change.
Yeah.
They come in, and we used to have a great relationship with the HSE.
They're boot, aren't they?
They were, and we used to have to phone them up and say, "Can you come and have a look, please? Just check where." But they don't do that anymore. What they do now is a random inspection, and it's fair to say they are driven by they have to raise an invoice for that inspection. So the HSE are commercial now.
So they invoice you for inspections.
Yeah.
It's not fines. It's not for non-compliance.
No, it's a fine if they find something. They'll always find something. So our last inspection was very recently. The radio was too loud. Yeah.
You got machine tools running, but the radio was too loud.
Yeah. So
Wow.
even though our policy was everybody has to wear ear defenders, which negates the noise level from the radio, it was deemed the radio was too loud. So we've negated that, and we had a full assessment that said that's perfectly acceptable, but the decibel level was measured at the radio, and that was too loud. And we're like, yeah, but we've got this policy. We're not interested in that. That's it. Here's your invoice for that visit. So that's, and we do get comments whenever anybody visits us, which I'm quite proud of, that they can never believe how tidy our factories are. And they think we've tidied up the day before or the morning of. And I'm like, no, that's how we run it. I'm very keen with my own OCD issues, but my two factory managers are very similar. So we do have very, very tidy factories. And I believe it just encourages the staff to be better.
You can tell as soon as you get to a car park or as soon as you get to the front if the place is painted, if windows are clean, and then you go in and invariably it's swaths all swept up, everything's tidy, everything's labelled. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to feel in danger when you walk on a factory shop floor. That's the thing we try to be. We have ISO accreditations, which is a badge.
But it matters that you've bothered.
It does. But the regulation, it's like every year they're finding, right, what can we do now? Because otherwise we haven't updated it. So if we don't update it, we can't bill for another inspection. So it just becomes its own animal. And a lot of the things like, well, we don't really need that regulation. It doesn't apply to us, but we have to comply with it in order to maintain the ISO certification. A lot of the material we keep on site, we have to keep records of. We have some flammable and chemicals. So there's an ongoing cost to making sure we're up to speed with regulation. Electrical testing, all of those things that you have to do, which are just part and parcel of business, but you then get business rates doubling overnight, and they wonder why so many businesses are not able to keep trading on.
What's the expansion plans for you guys? Would you grow by acquisition? How do you see the next 20 years?
Acquisition is the only growth really now. We've sort of saturated the markets in terms of what we can achieve with the brands we've got, but we can definitely acquire other manufacturers in the industry that are either competition or enable us to manufacture goods that currently we trade. So that would be the growth plans for the next 3 to 5 years.
How do you go about assessing a management team if you're looking at buying the business as a going concern? So you can't reuse the 5 of you, or the 6 of you.
It's performance. You go and see how the business is doing, and a lot of it is going back to the sales element, that people-to-people conversation, listening to what they're saying, what ideas have they got, and you'll very quickly make a judgment: are they right for this business, or can we tolerate them in this business until such time as we can integrate it into our larger factory, or recruit somebody else to replace.
That's a totally different mindset to the private equity of what the margins, where can we work it harder. You start with the people in the business as the value rather than
because they're going to make the money. Private equity are all about the bottom line, and we've engaged with private equity numerous times, and it's the same animal no matter which one you look at with private equity. This is to do with growth. We potentially, we've looked at acquisitions. The problem with PE is they don't want to learn the business. They don't want to understand it. Or they may as well just sit in a room with spreadsheets, and more often than not they do, and make that decision then, as opposed to coming out and learning the business and listening to people,
How do you glamorise that, being a successful businessman who's going out, acquiring another business over the sort of private equity or the inward investments, kind of, because that's the bit the government likes, it seems, is we've got inward investment, we've got people buying business. So how do you prioritise or glamorise that? Actually, we've been in business, we've done this 20 years, we're now going to do it for another company.
It's the success of it. Maybe that's a holistic and maybe a bit foolhardy approach. But seeing a business like every business we've got, Screen Systems, Multimesh and Brymon, we're all going the wrong way. Other than Harpscreen, which we bought we started and grown, those 3 businesses were all stagnant. And once you stagnate, you're going backwards. We've taken all of them and pushed them on by developing the team, and we've lost team members, increasing the sales and increasing the obviously the profitability of those businesses. So it's that success. Go into a business, you make an assessment quite quick on the overheads. We've got in our group, we've got 2 really good accountants who are ex-PricewaterhouseCoopers. One runs the Irish company, and the other guy does the accounts for the business. They're really, really good accountants. Different in the sense, my experience with accountants they are accountants in the cliched version of accountants.
Tell you the cost of everything and the value of nothing.
Exactly, and accountants are always looking at after the event. So they're looking at the numbers and it's already too late. It might be the end of the month, end of the quarter. Whereas if you're in the operations or the sales world, you can see what's happening now and what do you need to react to make sure that the profits and numbers that they're looking at are better in 3 months' time. But you've got to make decisions now. They're really good at sort of understanding that world.
That's really interesting. Nikki Silvano from Weber made the same point as the accountancy bit lets you look in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
The sales bit lets you look at the road ahead.
Correct.
So you've kind of solved that within the organisation.
It's they keep you right, and you get your management accounts through and everything else, and you sort of know where you're going to be sitting. But it's nice to see it in black and white. But when you see it in black and white, decisions I made 3 months earlier have enabled those numbers to appear, and without that, it doesn't happen. And I think a lot of businesses I've been into and viewed, they don't look at the numbers. I've got friends who have businesses and listening to them talk, and I'm like, how do you not know your cash flow? How do you not even know what you need each month?
Know the bank balance, know the WIP, know what's coming
just
in.
To know what's coming in.
But there's massive gaps in between those events.
Just to know your average cost per unit in terms of your margin and things like that. I'm not saying it's perfect, but just day to day, how do you not have even just a guide of what that might be? And I always think, why is your accountant not telling you that?
Does that come from your sales background, do you think? Do you grew up costing stuff, or is it the VAT background of...
Probably everything. And like my grandparents had fruit shops.
Okay, so you were from a kind of a entrepreneurial family. And
my dad used to sit and do the house finances when I was young, and I'd watch him going through the bank statement and writing the checks. And
they have the ledger in the back of the checkbook where
balancing it, correct, and making sure. And the same, my granddad had fruit shops, so it was always sort of a mental arithmetic background and things like that, and working in the fruit shops and working out the price of something. And so I always enjoyed that costing, and even now, to this day, my wife hates the fact that when we're shopping, I probably shouldn't say this, but she'll go to buy something because it's like 3 for 2 or whatever, and I'll go, right, what's the price per litre before you jump in?
Which is printed underneath the price. Correct, normally, is the litre or the gram or the kilo price. Yeah.
Don't get suckered in by the headline.
Yeah, they've got unit sales.
Correct.
Up by.
Yeah.
Going back to, kind of ask this question of a lot of people, how do we make more Paul Blanchards as kind of kids from Kirby? You've not had formal business education. You've learnt as you've gone on. You've been driven by responsibilities at a young age. You've had the bottle to take risks despite your responsibilities. And how do we go about bringing more young people into the kind of entrepreneurial space or getting that discipline, that drive?
I don't think I can answer that because I don't see myself as that. I get what you're saying, but I don't. It's circumstances that have provided me with those opportunities or caused me to create those opportunities.
Your grandparents, your dad.
A little bit luck, having a child at a very young age was in my head, all my peers were judging me.
Did you grow up a lot faster as that kind of baby comes along and that's the real kind of...
I was always responsible because I had a younger brother. So both parents worked very long hours. My mum was a teacher, my dad was an electrical contractor, and he'd work away from home quite a lot so we could have more money in the house, have better lives, nicer holidays, nicer cars, etc., etc. So I was always responsible for my younger brother. So that responsibility came to me at probably...
What's the age difference there then?
4 years, roughly.
Right,
so that's 10 or 11, I had a 6-7-year-old that get to school, get his breakfast, but I never seen it as responsibility. So I was always...
Family life.
Yeah, more responsible. And then I had a daughter at 18. So at that point, you're just like, okay, well, this is what it is. It's carry on with it. But I had the drive to do something different. And I think that came from... My mum's quite spontaneous. And my dad's dad had the fruit shops. So the entrepreneurial side, I think, can only come from that desire. Where working with him when I was sort of 12, 13, going to the fruit market at Edge Lane, 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, seeing that big wild world, but the variety. He'd be buying, fruit one week and then saying, don't buy that, lad, because it's not good. It's not good season. You know, all those, that knowledge that he had, I think that sort of sowed a seed in me to look for something a bit different.
It's those older role models as well at a young age of
Definitely. Yeah, my other granddad was a docker, and I used to go to the Liverpool docks with him and sit in his JCB and eat the butties that my nan had made for me and stuff like that. But again, it gave you the other background whereby the hard working side. My uncle was a scaffolder at Camel Aids, so watching them graft and really work hard, and my dad and everything, it gives you that sort of like grounding. And at the age of 12, I had a paper round. Age of 13, I had 4 paper rounds, of which 3 of them I'd given to somebody else to do.
So the entrepreneurial
outsourcing
it was just
there. I think that I see it was laziness. I was like, I don't want to do these 4 paper rounds. Get somebody else to do it.
That's interesting. So one of the things I found a lot of not so much business people, entrepreneurs, they're very good at getting other people to do stuff for them.
Yeah,
that was a skill you kind of.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, again, people are lazy, and
they
we're
want
all
direction.
lazy.
They want a bit of direction and a target.
If you
and praise.
especially if you're tired, you know, you say if you're driving somewhere and you stop at a service station, and you might think, oh, I'm going to have, I don't know, a focaccia, whatever sandwich. As soon as you get in front of those sandwiches, you'll pick your favourite sandwich without even realising it. More often than not, cheese and whatever it might be, because you can't be bothered making that choice, and you go, so you just do it. A lot of people are like that, and so those people who understand things and learn things and challenge themselves can then get other people to do things because they're giving them the knowledge, saying, look, if you do that, you'll get this, because I've researched and I've done it and everything else. So going back to cars, most of my friends come to me when they want to buy a car because they don't want to sit in front of a dealership with the salesman bamboozling them with tyre insurance and everything else. So I'll say, here's your deal. That's what you want to do. Go in and say that. They say, say it. This is what you say. A little bit of psychology and stuff like that. And I enjoy that moment where they go, yeah, I've got the deal I wanted. Thanks very much.
You don't just go on car wow. You know.
No. I still prefer the negotiation and the tactic and the challenge of it.
You take pleasure from the interaction definitely. And the game and the back and forth.
I like to. I always know where I'm going to end up, but I always think whoever I'm negotiating with, my first thought is, what do they want from it? So, and then I'm thinking, well, if I can do that,
last few days of the quarter,
if I can do that, then it's an easy negotiation. If I can't, it's my best to be blunt with them up front and say that's not going to happen, but this is what I can do.
So the guy with the packet of crisps, was he a mentor? Did you learn a lot from him? Have you had good mentors along the way?
He was full entrepreneurial. He was like, whatever you want, we'll do it. You know,
as long as you make money.
He was a developer. He was developed the software. Whatever you go out and say, just tell them we can do it. And we built like one of the first ever alarm call logging systems in the domiciliary care unit, which was brilliant. It was so instead of the care workers having to get a sheet signed, what they would do was they would sign a sheet or fill in the signatures. And one of the customers we had they were called 15-minute visits in the domiciliary care world. So you'd pop in, check they were alive, make them a brew,
feed them into bed,
get them out of bed. Yeah. And we looked at them and went, you're doing 6 of them in an hour. At some point, you're going to get audited, and that's not going to be possible. So you need to negotiate with the social services and explain it's not possible to do 4 15-minute visits in an hour because we just need to get in, get them up, etc., etc. And the signatures. So we said, well, we'll develop a call monitoring system. So the member of staff calls. One ring, answers, it knows it's the number of the house that the patient's in and logs them in. And then you can evidence that to the social services and show 8 minutes on site. And then you can get your 6 visits an hour, which justifies.
I think I remember my gran having a home help that had a similar set. First thing she'd do is go to the landline phone.
Yeah, that's it. And we built the card digitally into the server, tested it, put it in the call centre in Lancashire and an alarm monitoring
centre. So were you hosting your own? Did you host stuff centrally? Did you have your own hosting, or
we did?
The days where you put it in,
and then we put it into
place?
Centrex in Manchester and stuff like that. Yeah.
You wouldn't get back into kind of the software development game, no,
too painful.
That's really interesting to go from software development or to go from that sort of service business and then to go into manufacturing and say,
I'm just manufacturing something. I was manufacturing software that enabled them to deliver the business. That's all. That's how I seen it as. And even now, 20 odd years since I've left it, IT hasn't changed.
No.
It's still the same. It's different terminologies, but everything still works exactly the same. Email, Word, everything else. They can dress it up as much as they want. It hasn't changed at all. And people still get massively overcharged for things, consultancy and everything else. But yeah, I wouldn't go back to it. It's not as challenging. The manufacturing is great because there's a challenge every single day.
Do you still have mentors now? Do you still have people? Do you have non-execs and things? So you have some good people.
And when I had the IT business, it was one thing I wish we'd done. It was called a grey hair back then.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it. And we borrowed a lot of money, and we had, I think it was an SBS loan as well at the time, and we didn't spend it as wisely as we could have done, and we should have done. And that was one thing I regret. But the guy who I work for now, he's 70 this year, although I don't think he's 18. But he was a mentor for a long time because of how he did things. He was just a bit different, and good and bad. There was a lot of things I'd be like, yeah, I'm never doing that. That's not great. But other things you're like, oh, that's quite ingenious what he's done there.
Is that part of your kind of your sniff test for a good working environment? If you've got people who will kind of give you the wisdom, but also give you the tough love when you need it.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's difficult. Like obviously now, 20 years doing this role, the day to day I can do with my eyes shut, spinning plates. So I always need new challenges, be it new machinery, new equipment, another grant, a new development, an acquisition, because that's what excites me. That's what keeps me going. What we do every day, I trust my team to do. All I have to do is every now and then just go in and let them know I'm still there, and maybe just shake the tree a little bit so they don't get a bit too comfortable, shall we say. But apart from that, my next thing is, right, what are we doing next? How are we growing? What's the next project? And it's not always about the businesses. It can be some of the the property we have and things like that.
So you've got a property portfolio as well?
Yeah, we have a number of tenants that rent space from us, and we've got a project at the moment that we're trying to get off the ground with the LCRC to do with building SME units, specifically in Haydock, sort of 3,500 to 5,000 square foot of space solely for SME use.
So that's desperately needed, because a lot of the big developers, they want to do big box warehouses, or massive
Amazon
roofs. Yeah,
Amazon warehouses, I call them. Yeah,
but actual business spaces in the boroughs, manufacturing spaces are kind of 20,000 square feet with decent sized roofs rather than huge big boxes. We're missing that in the property portfolio. The pension funds don't want to do that.
We've experienced it ourselves as we've grown, looking for units just even to move into for a period of time, while we've built extensions to merge factories and things like that. We have people who rent a lot of office space, but we've also got a tenant who's a forklift truck provider, service and maintenance, and they rent space from us. And they are desperate for newer, more functional space with higher roof access, higher shutter access than the building we have, but they just cannot find anything. It's literally 30, 40,000 square foot or bigger.
Yeah.
Or if there's anything older, it's low roof, poor access, high business rates, poor maintenance, etc., etc. So they are desperate, and there's obviously many other people in that world that they're in, they're SMEs that are like, if somebody could show me some brand new space, and again, locality, they don't want to be relocating to the other side of Warrington or the other side of Manchester if their business is based in St. Helens. So they want that space. So I've just done a bid, which is hopefully going to go in today, expression of interest, and hopefully we'll get some support to get them units built in Haydock.
Must be tough. I was driving through Netherton the other day, and there's an old school that's, the school building's gone. You can tell it was a school by the gates. You can tell it by the school by the fences, and its housing going to go up. And you find that manufacturing sites as well as, okay, maybe we don't need as many schools because the birth rate's going down. That's a bad thing and to start with. But when you see manufacturing sites, brownfield sites, industrial sites being turned into housing, we do need that land and we need that energy for...
Yeah, I think the problem is that they've got so fixated on the distribution style warehouses because of the need for it right now, because everybody's buying online, everybody's not traveling to supermarkets or city centres anymore, so the distribution units are needed, and obviously the population has grown over the last 8 to 10 years. But I think now there's a saturation of them, whereby if you look in the market, a lot of those units now, they're really struggling to find a tenant for them because of the scale of them. And will they find somebody? Probably, if they drop the price significantly, or invariably they might have to split the unit.
Is this your entrepreneurial thing? You've seen a gap in the market with smaller units, and
I'm like, 2013, I put planning in to put an MOT testing station on this land, and because we had a client who we knew was like, look, we're desperate for a property, and we were like, right, okay, well, we'll go through the process. We did all the soil surveys, so we're well along with the journey to get these units built. But part of it was, at the time, I said, right, to the architect, put some units on it for me, 3,500 to 5,000, just on the planning app. We're not going to build them immediately, but to me, that's what's needed in this area, and that was 13 years ago. So I still had them drawings, still had all the plans, and
So you hadn't
now in the
renewed
bid.
planning, you hadn't kept it up, you just kept the drawings
Correct,
and you
yeah.
resubmitted
It's all
them.
there, so we'll resubmit them and get that in once we find out if we get some support.
How do you go about building particularly for young people, a space that people want to work on? Because you've got some strategies for cafes and
The unit in Harpscreen when I joined was a 10,000 square foot office space with 3 staff in it at the time. You've got the associated business rates, the utility cost of the energy, heating, water, and just the cleaning cost for the cleaner just to clean the entrance halls and everything else. So I'd always firmly believed or seen the Cadbury model down in West Bromwich and then over in Port Sunlight, the Lever Brothers, whereby if you build something and that is like a circular economy, it works. So in Haydock Industrial Estate, there wasn't very much opportunity or places that our team could go and get lunch or have a break or whatever. So the first thing we did was build a cafe in the office space. And originally we actually operated it. I recruited a manager to run it. And after about 6 weeks, I think it was, we were just getting ready to open. We'd done a load of the old-fashioned leaflet flyer drops around the estate. I found out he'd lied on his CVs. One of his references come through and he'd basically been thieving from his previous role. Had to dismiss him, but the cafe had momentum. So me and she wasn't my wife then, but we ended up working in the cafe.
So the MD's working in the cafe?
Not a bad cook, and she's a good cook. Because we had staff and we said, right, let's get it running. And in the meantime, we'll get it operational and find somebody else to come and rent it or run it for us. So I used to be in the cafe making breakfast from 5:30 in the morning with my BlackBerry back then, answering emails for work and everything else. And then
so you're flipping bacon with one hand and you've got BlackBerry, the managing director is running the
and then
cafe.
going into the factory at 10:30 for 2 hours and then coming back out. And we look back now, it was absolutely a ridiculously stupid thing to do because we were exhausted. But for 3 months, we established it, we got it running, and we got somebody to come in who took over it and kept the staff and built it up. And we've had 3 tenants who've had the cafe since then, and the latest one is 2-year occupation, and it's a Georgian and Italian family, and everything is homemade. It's absolutely unbelievable. So if you're ever in the area, go and see them.
You've got the best grub in.
It's honestly, it's fresh bread, fresh everything, fresh coffee. It's just perfect. And then we've got other office space that is a building maintenance, security and alarms, intruder alarms, and an accountancy firm, and another tenant that rents space that is metals and products for the aerospace industry. That's all quite controlled, and their job is to make sure they supply Airbus and Boeing with the right products across the UK. And the last one is a sign company who rent space as well. They do signs right across the country for Subway, Costa, Morrison's, and they're sort of an SME as well on that site. And then the other site's got the forklift company in. So we've got plenty of SMEs around us. It's great. I love it.
A good mix. So if you're a tech startup and you have the novelty of a kitchen and a pool table and stuff, you get lots of brownie points. But you've done the same thing for manufacturing and
going
heavy
back to this
industry.
before, people don't want to think they're lazy, so they can just come downstairs, go site. Our lads off the shop floor, they'll go and place an order before they start work, and then pick their breakfast up at break or wherever it is. And they're very accommodating, and it just means they don't have to think, or they don't have to lose valuable minutes on their lunch or break sourcing food.
It's one of the nicest things as a visitor as well. If you go to manufacturing companies, there's a really good cafe under the Runcorn Bridge, and kind of, you know, if you go in as a visitor and say, oh, it's lunchtime, do you want to go and get a butty? And then you're in that little, it's like a school lunch line. Is everybody's kind of
it's great to
over
trust, because we get suppliers visiting and everything else. I can just say to the team, if I'm not ready or we're busy, look, go and put them in a coffee shop, it's fine. Get them looked after, get them a sandwich.
Planning challenges when you say I want to put a nice cafe inside an industrial kind of estate? Do the planners go, huh?
No, to be fair, St Helens Council have been really, really supportive. Anything I've ever done, be it planning, they were great, really, really forward thinking. I could phone them up, literally phone up the head of planning last time we were building and just say, could you have a look at this for us, please? And he'd be like, absolutely, send me the drawings, or I'll come to site and look at it with you. Which is when you're trying to move things along and keep your business running, that sort of being able to sidestep the bureaucracy and get a decision quickly, or at least guidance, was great.
That's nice to hear, because St Helens gets so many positive reviews as a local council. Lisa Harris, Sean Traynor, they are, you know, it's proactive. I remember calling Lisa about something once, and she said, road's flooded, can we cancel and reschedule? I've got to sort this road that's flooded out.
But they are. The one big miss is the chamber. They were great, the St Helens Chamber, and it's really sad that it went, and nobody's ever gone, right, find the money to bring that back, because it was really good.
And again, that was a shock, because I
Yeah.
always thought St Helens Chamber was
Solid.
the model for that. You had nothing but good stories
Yeah.
about St Helens Chamber, and it is such a unique patch as well.
Yeah,
St Helens.
I've dealt with Sefton, Knowsley, Liverpool over the years, and St Helens was head and shoulders above I can only speak personally, above any engagement. I've also had longer time engaging with them, but they were brilliant.
Wouldn't start your own chamber?
No. I've done the government thing with the customs and excise.
Well, it might be a little, semi-retirement gig
Possibly,
for you,
yeah,
fractional gig.
Maybe.
Is,
I never understood. I never looked into it, how it didn't succeed. I don't understand it. It can only be some sort of financial negligence, because it, as you just said, it was in the right area. It had great building, great location, great reputation locally. So I just didn't understand it.
What would be your advice for kind of people, your younger self going into it now? Is if you've got particularly kind of young lads coming up, want to make a success of it, not necessarily academic, what would you say to them? Or less the education, but more the behaviours and the people you've had along the way. What should someone go looking for if they want to get ahead fast?
I mean, to me, it's simple. Just work hard and listen and observe, and be prepared to be wrong and make mistakes. Don't let your ego get in the way.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, because it does, especially when you're younger. It really does.
How do you avoid that? How do you?
I think it only comes with maturity, if I'm honest with you. As you get older, I mean, I did a project maybe 7 years, maybe just after COVID. I can't remember. Brought an external consultant, and it was just somebody I knew through the gym I trained at. But she had purple hair, which again intrigued me. Probably similar to the beef month to month. So I always engaged with her and really found her quite sort of challenging to myself personally.
Giving the game away for anyone who's interviewing with you in future.
Just
it's show up with with packing a monster munch
and purple hair.
Your hair. Yeah.
But her background was health and ear for Siemens.
Okay.
So basically like a HR person, but to make sure everything was good for the team and everything else. And I just asked her to come in and do some. I had no idea. The chamber gave me some funding to do it and said, look, just come in and speak to my team. At Multimesh it was. And the reason I chose Multimesh was, at the time, I felt there was always friction between me and them. And I think there was a historic issue with trusting management or the boss. And I don't think it was anything to do with ourselves. The previous owners had taken union money from them back in the day. And when we took over, they tried to call the union to say we were changing this, changing that.
Right.
And I said, call the union, bring them in, but it's not going to change what I'm doing, because this is what needs to happen. When they phoned the union, they said, we know who you are. We've never had any contributions from that company, from any of those staff. So the company previous owners have been deducting the money but never paying it, which is really sad. So, and I think also you've got Pilkingtons and Sutton Manor Coal. I don't know if it's bred into people that we're always going to be screwed over, so I don't trust management. But we just felt we had that vibe all the time, and it didn't matter what we tried to do. There was always a resistance, like a sort of non-engagement in what we were trying to do to make the business better. So I asked this lady to come in and said, look, whatever you do it with the team, and I'll take it on board. And it was a real eye-opener for me in terms of things like people saying, he doesn't smile when he walks past us.
You?
Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't
say
see
something
you.
funny.
Yeah, exactly that. And I was like, but I don't see you, because when I'm on the shop floor, I've got to focus. I haven't come out to see what's going on. I'm come out because invariably there's a problem. I don't come out, or I've come out to see what's going on, what's the activity like, get a feel for the mood on the shop floor. And there was many other things, but that was one of the big things. And I was like, right, okay. And at first it felt a bit false. Hiya, morning, you all right? But now it's really natural. And I think that's where the things I said before about helping them with car finance. And I've obviously become more approachable without realising it, just by probably softening up a little bit.
It's interesting that there's a lot of, it is a manufacturing characteristic. I don't know whether people do it deliberately or unconsciously to create a bit of a you are the boss. So many manufacturing MDs are quite deadpan.
Yeah.
Brilliant sense of humour when you get them in their office or if they're off site, but on the shop floor it is very few words, deadpan. I don't know.
I think I've always tried to create that divide, like years ago.
Which is healthy in a leadership point of view, yeah.
Of going on the Christmas party.
Yeah.
And that stopped after about 5 years, because it was just always a pay rise meeting, especially once they've got a skin full of alcohol in them. I'm worth more and everything else. So I decided that this is a mistake. I can't do this anymore. With the IT company, it was a much smaller and different class of intellect, I'd say, probably with most of them that we're dealing with. So I could do that. With a lot of the shop floor people, that you get the sort of one voice starts being dissenting, and it doesn't take long before there's 3, 4, 5, 6 of them following them without realising why. And that's the one thing that when we did this programme, we've got rid of that now. We don't really have any of the dissenting. We do a monthly meeting with all the staff, and I think most of the time they're just looking forward to the early finish, because once I've finished the meeting, they can go.
Strategic timing of the meeting.
Correct, yeah. But it's an opportunity where I can say, this is what we've done this month, this is what's coming up. Is there anything you want to talk about? And we go through any ideas, any machine problems that they filled in the books and things like that, any near misses. Some of it they're probably bored by, but that communication is there now. So that was a big positive that I would say to anybody who's starting out, do that engagement really, really early on. As painful as it is.
So you've been really proactive on that front then?
Yeah.
Is everybody kind of as proactive as that? Have times changed from the sort of unionised us and them? Are we get into a kind of more sensible, we're all in it together discussion?
I think COVID played a massive part in that.
Made it worse or better?
Better.
Okay.
I think that made it, I think that shocked a lot of people that, oh my God, this is something that could really
kill us.
And actually these petty arguments we're having, or petty disagreements, or they don't really matter. So, and genuinely, like, for a long time, we benefited from almost a fear factor, I think, of people thinking.
Did you keep running during COVID? Or?
Yeah.
You had the whole social distancing, the whole testing.
We reduced the workforce, and amazingly, the productivity stayed the same. So that was a massive learning curve as well. But yeah, I'm not sure, because I don't know about any other factories or manufacturers, but we just try to be more, we still have to keep our distance, but we try to be more open and more engaging. We're not giving stuff away. You know, one of the things that, again, I would say to people is document your salary or your pay scales, because so many factories keep them hidden, and then you find out people are on little side deals. Or so one of the first things I've done whenever I've gone into any business in the manufacturing factory world is, there's the pay scales on the board with a brief synopsis. If you can do X, Y, Z, you can have that pay grade. Don't care how long you've been here. Whereas previously, I think it was, oh, well, Terry's been here 20 years, so that's why he's paid the most. Yeah, but Brian can do the job as well, and he's only been here a year.
So it's meritocratic, it's transparent, it's meritocratic.
Far
They're the
better.
certificates you need, all qualifications you need, that's the overtime rate. That's
so there's no ill feeling, and everybody knows what everybody's on. So they know if that's the highest paid employee, that's what I've got to be able to do before I can ask for that pay scale.
That's interesting, that, because public sector frequently gets accused of having set pay scales, but for you guys it works.
It works,
yeah.
Takes a lot of headaches away from the factory managers especially.
Interesting. You talked about kind of your morning start, going to the gym. Just kind of want to briefly touch on kind of setbacks and mental health and stuff. Is you'll have had setbacks, presumably. How do you recover from setbacks? And as a leader who's responsible for so many people, how do you kind of look after yourself?
Football, going and watching and playing. I still try to play every Monday night with friends I've had, or groups of people I've known and worked with from supermarket days when I was 16, 17. That just gives you an escape, little bit of aggressiveness and things like that.
Healthy outlet for
correct, yeah. And there was a period when I stopped playing for a while because I just thought I was getting too old, and I didn't realise what I was missing, and I took up boxing for a bit, and I realised, all right, it's that aggressive release of frustration for that 1 hour a week was really, really helpful. The gym's great for that. But the mental health thing is difficult as a leader, because I always say to people when this, you always, because you'll walk around with a frown. I'm like, I don't get good news.
Yeah, it's tough. You're in meetings all day. Everyone brings you the problems.
Is a problem or a pressure or a thing. So when I get a win, I enjoy it for that brief moment. But then there's 10 fails or 10 problems coming after it. So as a leader, you are on your own. You are completely isolated. I've got the gentleman in Ireland who does the same job as me. So invariably, him and I tend to phone each other at least once a week to have a moan. And that's it. Then it's gone. It's done. But you need that outlet. With my wife, we have a 30-minute rule where I'm allowed 30 minutes on the phone of a night as we drive home. Now, invariably, she tends to leave before me, so I need to leave quite quick to get me 10 minutes in. But we're not allowed that conversation at home, and it does work. Go for a walk. I've started walking quite significantly in the last 10 years and find that really, really helpful, because, as I say, the wins, you get a great contract or a great order, it's brilliant. Your first thought is, how do we deliver that?
Yeah.
Where's the next one coming from? Is everybody going to get paid? Are we okay for the year? All of those things. Not so much now because we're established, but when I had the IT company, VAT, PAYE, every night I worried about that. Every single night.
Do you switch off now? Do you just sleep easy, or is it still kind of?
I sleep okay because we're never really, we're quite well established, so I don't worry about that, and there's other people to share that responsibility. But I don't switch off. Like most of my evenings are spent Googling or on LinkedIn or looking for things or reading through emails on one of my two phones to see where am I at, what's going on, and just looking for new opportunities or new ideas or something new I want to manufacture automatically. Can I find a machine that's available that does that but in another world, so I don't have to build it bespoke or something like that?
Fantastic. Paul Blanchard, leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always, thank you very much.
Cheers.